Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our presentation, which will be done by Team Roxcian, consisting of Sedan Watkins and Roxcian Moore. Today, we'll be looking at the SuperSoaker, a special type of water gun. The objectives are, by the end of this presentation, student teachers should be able to grasp at least 80% of understanding of product, SuperSoaker, and its application. Effectively understand a selected problem associated with the product, SuperSoaker. Discover how graphs and regression can be used to solve problems. Be enlightened about the economic, social, environmental impact of the performance of the SuperSoaker. So, one might ask, what is the SuperSoaker and what is the purpose of the SuperSoaker? Now, the purpose of the SuperSoaker was made for recreational purposes like game and also entertainment. Now, here, sit back, watch this lovely video which might drag some memory back to your childhood. Okay, thank you for watching that lovely video. Okay, students, let us stop here for a bit. The question I want to ask is, would you want just one of the regular type of water gun or the SuperSoaker water gun based on the video that you've just seen? And would you say the SuperSoaker is better than the regular water guns that we have been using in Jamaica? You can put your comments in the chat. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's see how effective the SuperSoaker is as it regards to the distance. And further down in our presentation, you will understand why most persons prefer the SuperSoaker. Overview of the problem. Now, one of the most popular new toys to hit the market in recent years is a high-power water gun called the SuperSoaker. This is a new technological advanced water gun that allows the user to shoot more water a greater distance than ever before. This provides an opportunity for more strategic and intense water gun competitions and games. Now, remember when I said that many persons would prefer this because of the distance the water is able to shoot, right? And now the problem that we'll look at in this presentation is how the number of pump affects the distance the SuperSoaker will shoot. We'll be showing you how the graph and the regression from this research tells the relationship between the two.
All right, so the area of mathematics that is involved is as follows. Algebra, developing and interpreting graphs, developing linear equations, gathering data, and finally, percents. Algebra is implemented when the use of both the Bernoulli and kinematic equation is used to find the pressure inside the SuperSoaker gun. Also, algebra involves when the linear regression comes into play, which is our focus for the selected project. Quadratic regression also falls under the algebra branch. So, gathering of data. So basically, this has to do with the measuring and recording of various factors as it relates to the project. Some factors would be, for instance, the distance of the dispensed water, number of pumps, just to name a few. Developing and interpreting graphs. The graphs are basically used to display representational outcomes as it relates to the various factors, and in this case, we're talking about factors affecting the operation of the SuperSoaker water gun. So these factors are the number of pumps, volume of water used, volume of water expelled, the density of the water in the gun, and of course the distance the water travels.
Okay, the question that we're going to look at is, what is the relationship between the number of pumps and the distance the SuperSoaker will shoot? Now, the number of pumps. First, we'll look at it on a table form. So this was an experiment carried out by students where they recorded number of pumps versus the volume and the distance of the water, right? Now we'll be focusing on the distance of the clean water. So pay keen attention to that, right? So now, what is the relationship between the two? Now, as we go down, we realize that the number of pumps, they're getting greater, right? And we can see the same thing for the distance in inches that the water travels, right? So for pump one, if you pump the SuperSoaker one time, we realize that, okay, it's going 68.7 inches. Two times, 106 inches. And then when we reach down to like 13, it's like 205.3 inches. So we can draw from this table that, okay, the more you pump the SuperSoaker, the further the water will shoot. Okay, students. So based on the number of pumps and the distance of the water in inches, and remember, we're focusing on the clean water because we mostly use the clean water when we're playing our water war. So you can relate to this, right? So what term that you'd use to describe the relationship between the two? The greater the number of pumps, the further the distance. So what is the relationship? What is the word you'd use to describe the relationship between the two? All right. Okay, so if you said proportional, if they're proportional, that is very good. Now, the graphical representation, right? We can use linear regression to basically draw something from this. The mathematical aspect of it is we could use linear regression. Now, you might be asking, what is linear regression? Now, linear regression attempts to model the relationship between the two variables, right? So you can see the distance here. Let me use my pointer. We can see the distance of water expelled on the y-axis, right? And then we can see the number of pumps on the x-axis. So it modeled the relationship between the two variables by fitting a linear equation to observe the data. And we can see the linear equation there. Now, one of the variable is considered to be an explanatory variable, and the other is considered to be a dependent variable, right? And we all know that what the dependent variable is. So just as the experiment wants to relate the number of pumps to the distance of water that is expelled, a linear regression has the equation y is equal to a plus bx, where x is the explanatory variable, y is the dependent variable, and b is represented by the slope, and a is the intercept. Now, how did they end up getting r squared here? And we can know that r squared, which is the coefficient of determination, which tells how much variation is y, is explained by x, right? So remember, the r squared is the coefficient that tells how much variant in y is explained by x, right? A point to note is that the range is 0 to 1, where 0 is 0% and 1 is 100%, right? So we can see that this is 0.7504. So it's closing to 1, right? It's very close to 1. So basically we can say the relationship between the x and the y is very close. So we can say they have a positive correlation. Therefore, the number of pumps affects the distance that the water will go, right? We can basically use Desmos to basically plot this linear regression. So we'd plot our number of pumps on the x-axis, and then we'd plot the distances that they got, right, on the y-axis, as you can see here. And then here, I'd have get my result to be r squared is equal to 0.7495, right? And we have our parameters with m being 11.59, b being 96. Back to the presentation. This is the line of best fit. Therefore, we can conclude that there's a positive correlation between the number of pumps and the distance of spray based on all that we have done using linear regression. Remember, you can use Desmos app where you just punch in your points and then it will bring up the information based on the data you put in. The output, which would be R squared, you could use that to basically help to tell how close relationships are between two variables, right? And remember, our variables were like 0.75, therefore they have a close relationship, which could also be classified as a positive correlation, all right? Now, we'll be looking at the applicability of implementing the SuperSoaker in Jamaica. Now, it is environmentally friendly, whereas in the SuperSoaker, remember, we use water in the SuperSoaker. It cannot damage the environment and it can be stored and used back. Therefore, it's reusable. We use water in it, so, water won't damage anything outside, and it's reusable, which is environmentally friendly because nowadays we're trying to save our forests, and having the super soaker where we can reuse the super soaker as the years goes by. Therefore, the super soaker can be classified as environmentally friendly.
Health benefits. Alright, so as we know, the SuperSoaker gun is basically a brand of recreational water gun that manually pressurize air to shoot water basically with a great range and accuracy. So in Jamaica, the SuperSoaker water gun can be used as one's leisure. For instance, engaging in a blood pumping, heart racing activity such as a friendly water war game among family members, friends, or even neighbors. So it is safe for us to conclude that implementing the use of the SuperSoaker water gun to engage in a water war activity can be deemed as a form of exercise, and exercise indeed improves health. So what's up, dude? 2017 enlightens that exercise enhances both physical along with mental health. So as it relates to physical benefits, exercise can indeed lead towards cardiovascular along with respiratory improvements. It is generally assumed by physicians in Jamaica that there is a minor chronic respiratory disease in the island of Jamaica, but there is very little evidence to support, or in other words, back up this clinical impression or claim. So basically, the cardiac muscle surrounds the heart, and if Jamaicans engage in water war activities, which requires for them to be active, yes, active. I know you guys love to be active, right? Not just lay back. So it requires for them to be active, and the cardiac muscle will pump a greater volume when the body is active, and that would benefit all Jamaicans, especially those who might have cardiovascular or respiratory issues, as being active will result in the decrease in resting heart rate, which basically will develop more red blood cells, leading towards the transporting of oxygen to muscles and strengthen the lungs, making it stronger to supply one's body with the oxygen that person's body so desires. So as it relates to the reduction in health risk factors, exercise reduce health risk factors such as minimizing the risk of, for instance, say type 2 diabetes, and reduce the risk of metabolic syndrome. And additionally, regular exercise can influence one's lifespan. Alright, so finally, also, one of the physical benefits of exercise is that it increases metabolic rate, which is the rate at which one's body burns calories. Show of hands of those who actually engaged in a water war before, and how you go about engaging in this water war. You had a gun, what was it, a bucket of water, balloons? Please share in the chat. So as it relates to the mental benefits, engaging in water war using a SuperSoaker water gun will indeed increase Jamaicans' feelings of well-being, as it will enhance the action of endorphin and enkephalin, which aid in improving natural immunity, which we Jamaicans needs, especially during this time where the COVID-19 virus is active. So one of the mental benefits that exercise do provide is that it improves sleep. But with respect to time, I'm just going to jump straight into explaining how engaging in a water war activity will improve the brain function. So we know that, again, I shall repeat, water war is basically a physical activity that has to do with some form of exercise, right? And we know that exercise improve the brain function as it will reduce fatigue, yes, which will result in improving alertness, yes, and concentration, in which some of us during online classes need to master. So why not purchase a SuperSoaker water gun and engage in a water war with your friends, family members, or even your neighbors from time to time, and rest assured knowing that eventually your concentration will increase and you'll be up and running. Yes, you'll be fine for your online classes.
Yes. So the economic and social impact of SuperSoaker, if implemented in Jamaica, Jamaicans love to have fun, right? And knowing that the SuperSoaker has that great power, that persons could actually, maybe buy and sell. So that would in turn create jobs for persons to, bring it to the market and sell it to persons and then, make some money. As it regards to entertainment, there's a lot of water party in Jamaica. We live in the tropic zone where, summer come up and we need to have some fun. We can use this as a form of entertainment. Persons could have a water party and the SuperSoaker could be something that is used at the water party, right? So it could be used for job creation and it could also be used as entertainment. As regards to violence in youths, all right. So before I move on, I would ask you, why do you think we say violence in youths? Okay. All right. Yes. So violence in youths. Remember that the SuperSoaker is basically like a gun. If you have a child, if you introduce a child to the SuperSoakers, based on where the child grows up, the child might see persons with guns and stuff like that and mimic the SuperSoaker as a gun. So in the child's mind, he is learning how to control a gun from early. Therefore, that might be putting your child at risk. So we can say it may influence violence in youths.
Interesting facts of the SuperSoaker water gun. Guys, this is gonna pique your interest at this point because these facts indeed piqued my interest. So, first point, accident intervention. So shockingly, the SuperSoaker water gun was originated from a creation plan, yes, for a new heat system to regulate temperature through moving water. So basically in 1982, yes, a nuclear scientist that goes by the name of Looney Johnson was the creator of the SuperSoaker water gun. And during his spare time, he was working on a new heat system and attach a model of the pumping mechanism to his bathroom sink. And then came a water explosion that blasted across the room. The extent of the explosion resulted in Mr. Johnson to be struck by the idea for a water gun that would basically use compressed air to create pressure for the water blast. From that incident, the SuperSoaker water gun came to life. Fact number 2. Even though the SuperSoakers are constructed around a pump mechanism, pumping the pump do not shoot water from the gun. Interesting, huh? Very much. So, alright, basically, moving the pump, in other words, pumping the pump doesn't actually drive water out of the gun. It simply serves to increase the water pressure by basically building the water pressure prior to the blast by pumping air straight into the single water reservoir. The more air pumped, basically, the more compressed it becomes, which will indeed then apply greater pressure to the water inside. So, basically, pumping the pump do not necessarily release the water, but what really do release the water is the pulling of the trigger. So, the pulling of the trigger basically release the water. Alright? Okay, so the third fact. huge water backpack design reservoir. So I basically got to find out that for extra animation, some designs strap to a huge water reservoir in which one can wear like a backpack. So that's very cool, right? Because first thing come to mind is like a jetpack type of looking thingy. But yeah. Alright, so basically after reviewing this interesting project, this project basically drive me into making a decision that I want to. For my Christmas, I'm gonna indeed purchase a SuperSoaker water gun. So the fourth interesting fact is that some SuperSoaker guns are uniquely designed to shoot in 4 directions simultaneously. Forward, backward, sideways. That's sideways, left and right. So based on how effective the SuperSoaker Nerf water guns are when it comes down to the water war, we wish to leave you with a quote. So the next world war will be over water. Anonymous. So this is the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for participating, and these are our references. Have a wonderful day.